Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Hallmarkies podcast. And we are here to talk about June weddings. It's my favorite time of the year. Not so much, but it's going to be really fun to talk about. And I have two very special guests with me today. We have from One Kiss Means Forever. We've got Hannah and Katie here. And thank you so much, ladies, for coming on talking about these June weddings movies with me.
Hi.
Hello.
Nice to
be here. Yes. So good to be
We always
here.
love coming on and chatting.
Thank you. Well, and I really wanted to have particularly Katie on because she just had her own
I did. I just got married. Hannah was a very large, important part of that wedding.
Now, hopefully you didn't have shenanigans like they do in these wedding movies.
We had our fair share of shenanigans, but none that were like devastating. I mean, we did get rained out in my reception, but it was like it waited until the perfect moment when the photographer had just left, dinner was over, so it was really just the dancing, and we had started karaoke at my wedding reception because
it did lead to a great picture I have of Katie on the floor of a empty ballroom in her wedding dress, like just splayed out. So
yeah. like the picture that you have at your friend's house after the homecoming dance where you just like don't give a shit and you're wearing a nice dress. That was me. It was wonderful in my wedding gown. It was
did you have like an outdoor tent?
No. So we did a destination wedding. It just made the most sense for me and my husband to do that. We just have family and friends from all over the world. So it made most sense to just like, why have them spend a certain amount of money to come to where we're living now, but when they could spend a little bit more and have an all-inclusive vacation for 5 days, you know?
Yeah.
So,
oh, wow.
That was our logic with that. So we got married in Mexico. So,
my sister, she got married during COVID, just a civil ceremony. But she's talked about having an actual wedding, and I'm like, have it in England because she lives in England. I'm like, have it in England, then Dad will have to pay for my trip. He'll pay for my flight ticket. It'll be great.
That'll be wonderful. And the English know how to do a good wedding.
Yeah, they do.
Half of my family is over that way, which is why Mexico was a big draw for many
she's
of
like,
them.
we could do it in Utah. I'm like, you're missing the whole point. The point is for me to get a free trip to England out of this.
Great. I mean, also
so selfish.
Also, if she wants a wedding, the castles are in England.
Yeah, that's right.
They have the castles there. You can get one of those for the wedding.
And the lovely English gardens.
And I told my dad, I'm like, I'm probably not going to get married, so you can give her my
that's nice of you.
Go all out.
That's very nice of you. I'm also probably not going to get married. And my father was like, I gave your sister X amount of money, so here's yours.
I need to try that strategy. That's a good strategy. I hadn't thought of that.
Yeah. No, he was like, fair is fair. I was like,
yes.
Hey, win.
So Katie, you had the destination wedding.
I did.
You work with like a resort out there to plan it? Is that how it worked? Yeah.
Yes. So I had a really wonderful wedding planner at the resort. She was really cute and fun and very sweet when when I was getting ready for the day, and the beautiful women who were doing my hair and makeup, spoke mostly Spanish, and I had been doing Duolingo for 2 years and didn't have enough Spanish to tell them what I wanted. So mild freak out. I did try. So she came to the rescue and she was really great. But yeah, so I didn't have all of the wedding planning tropes in a lot of ways. We had no cake tasting, no menu tasting. It was here's a Google Doc of every decision you have to make. Send it back in 3 weeks.
I never understand that in these movies when they're all like, oh, I gotta go to the cake testing. I'm like, are you insane? That's like the best part.
I know. I'm a little sad we didn't do it. And I'm also a little sad because the cake that we cut, which was a different cake than what everybody else was served, was delicious. And what they ended up serving and also bussing and giving us a piece of was not as good. So I was really sad.
But you got to eat the cake. You cut a little bit, right?
Yeah, but we wanted to eat more of it. But then we got roped into dancing with our guests. Oh my God.
I swear, usually the bride and groom hardly eat anything. at a wedding.
They took care of us. It was actually really nice
That's
because we
good.
had a sweethearts table and then we had our own servers that
Oh,
brought us food from the
that's good.
buffet. So it was nice.
Yeah. Yeah. I've only ever really been in like two fancy or ish wedding. My best friend from high school and then my sister. I mean, hers was a lot of do it yourself, but it all turned into a real classy event.
Yeah.
And but people tend to do a lot of weddings on the cheap here in Utah, and you go and people don't have food. Like that's the thing. I was shocked when I mean, because I grew up on the East Coast, and I don't care if you were 16 and pregnant and getting married, you had food at your wedding. Like,
I will never forget the first time I was in a wedding. I, for some reason, I don't know why I went to the flower thing as like part of my bridesmaids duties, but I did. And I remember the bride just, her parents were there being like, no one's going to remember the flowers. It's the food. I don't care what the flowers are. And it's like, yeah, that's what it's, people will remember the food if it's shitty.
True.
And if they, and that's basically it. Like the people remember the bad if it's not very good.
Like
and
my friend Meredith, her wedding, she had Indian food, which at the time, because this was way back in 2001, was like less common. I had never had it before. And it was kind of like, ooh, this is exciting. This is delicious. So it was memorable and really good. And and we were so hungry by the time that we got through the whole day that it was very memorable. The food. And then my sister's wedding had really good food. Most of it we made. Like we had this curry chicken salad, and then we have this Vietnamese place that we really love, and so we got a bunch of their egg rolls, and then we sliced them in 3, so they were like a little.
Oh, nice,
so good. Yeah.
I think the food was pretty okay at the wedding. At least the first kind of main course, the guacamole and the jicama and the salads and stuff. And then there was like mushroom fajitas and stuff.
Oh.
Yeah.
Are you vegan?
I'm a vegetarian.
Oh, okay.
There's a lot of vegan vegetarians who came to the wedding, and there was plenty of meat for the meat eaters, which looked good for them.
Yeah.
Fine.
I assume they did well. I also, as a vegetarian, didn't.
Oh, you're vegetarian too?
Yeah.
Okay.
They had this really yummy spicy sauce that was like real spicy, and it was awesome because my husband and I really like spicy food, and apparently some of my British family was like, "What? We don't do spicy." So it was pretty fun to watch.
So
the dancing was cool.
Yeah. Did you have a special song that was like your song to dance to?
I feel like we always have so many special songs. So Billy and I got engaged while at karaoke, like literally the weekend the pandemic struck. And our song with karaoke was "Nothing's Gonna Stop Us Now." That was the very first song we ever sang together, like even before we started dating. And so it's special to us. So that was like our cake cutting song, but we wanted our first dance to be something cheesy and also romantic. And one of my favorite songs is "You're the Inspiration" from Chicago.
Oh, yeah.
Well, by Chicago. But the real like special moment I had Rainbow Connection played during the reception because my dad is, I'm going to just go out here and make everybody cry. My dad is a double amputee. He's been kind of fearful of using prosthetics and things like that. But he has been practicing. My mother walked me down the aisle because my mom, she basically, like, I lived in her house. They had joint custody my whole life.
Mm-hmm.
But the first dance was with my dad. And so he practiced his legs to dance with me. Wow. We were only able to like toddle a couple directions, but we did it to Rainbow Connection, and there was not a dry eye in the garden.
Oh my God.
No, we were all like just sitting there like, oh my God.
Yeah. Even the photographer came over and was like, "You guys got me."
You should upload that to YouTube. You could probably get like 2 million views. Not even kidding.
I think he would be a little embarrassed, but he was proud of himself, and I was proud of him, and everyone was. So
that is very, very touching.
Yeah.
Very touching. Oh, well, I'm so happy that you had a great wedding. It sounds like all things considered, it went well.
It sure did. It was hot and sticky, probably apparently hotter than like it's supposed to be in May, but you know what's happened to the planet. So like,
Yeah,
we were
right.
all very humid. But then that rain came and just they say it's good luck to have rain on your wedding day. And if that's true, then we have a lot of good luck because it did
Yeah.
not stop.
Okay.
But,
Wow.
yeah.
Very well. So what would you say uh they don't capture about the wedding experience very well in these wedding movies now that you've gone through yourself?
What I wish they captured a little bit more is all of the support that a bride does have, or at least I had
Mhm. Yeah.
throughout the day. Hannah was one of my bridesmaids, and my maid of honor like followed me to bustle my dress at a very like opportune moment. So that was beautiful. My
Mhm.
mother and my mother-in-law were beautiful. And I also just kind of wish that I saw more of like the partnership out of the couple.
Mhm.
It feels like it's always like a fight. And I feel like there was many times throughout the day and throughout the whole process where like Billy and I just had to be like in on the game, in on it together and
Yeah.
like because you're getting married. And so like I've talked about this with Hannah on our own podcast with when there's somebody who runs away or walks down the like does chooses not to walk down the aisle like day of, or there's a broken engagement. I always
Yeah.
like now going through it, I feel really sad
Yeah.
because like that was a decision you made and it's not
Well,
really
they
lightly.
always
And
have that in movies, not just Hallmark movies, but all kinds of movies. And I have never heard of it actually happening in real life, of someone literally leaving someone at the altar. I've heard of engagements breaking up, but
yeah,
like day of, like, or close to that, I've never heard of that actually happening. You'd think it happens all the time by
you'd
movie
think.
standards.
I mean, I don't know, but like I didn't have my phone. My phone was taken from me on the day because our
Okay.
friend was like, a bride should not have a phone, and so I didn't have it. And my husband told me later. He goes, "I missed you today all
Oh,
day,"
that's
and I
so
went, "Aw,
cute.
yeah." It's that kind of stuff that you don't really see
Yeah.
as much.
Yeah. What do you think, Hannah? What do you think that uh they could do better in these wedding movies in general?
Well, I think, there's always that pressure to get married, which I think rather than the joy of it,
Yeah.
there's always that mother or mother-in-law or friend who is like, that's so exciting that you're getting married for the sake of getting married rather than the sake of this
Yeah.
relationship is special and like a commitment in like a beautiful way.
Yeah.
So I do think that that gets a little lost as it, it just doesn't come out as well.
Mm.
Um, I also think as Katie said, just I've never ever been to a wedding where it's not like every single person is there to support, even if there's like somebody in the crowd who is like less enthused because they either are just like a date of somebody and don't care or,
Right.
you know, whatever. But like the people actually surrounding the couple, like the bridesmaids, groomsmen,
Hmm.
parents, that kind of stuff, everybody is like we've worked really hard to get to this point. We're really excited about it. Like
Yeah.
this is going to be a super fun, amazing time. We're all like prepared to cry. You just
Hmm.
like you don't get that level of emotional connection to the
Hmm.
movies. Like
I
Yeah.
kind
anything.
of Yeah, I kind of wish they put less this emphasis on kind of the things that you have to buy in order to make other people happy in during that
Hmm.
day. Like
Hmm.
we were talking about before, the flowers, the whole look of it. I got into a fight with the wedding coordinator over my centerpieces because I was like, things are so exponentially marked up. I'm like, I can spend that much on a photo booth. Like, I don't need, no one's going to remember my geometric terrariums,
Hmm.
you know, like in the middle of it.
Yeah.
And they ended up looking great. Like, but
Hmm.
you don't have to
Yeah.
spend that much money.
The problem that wedding movies often have is that so the couple's already together. So that normal conflict is done. So you have to figure out enough conflict to keep the story going. And the problem with that is it's usually things that make the bride in particular look really petty and annoying, that conflict. And it's just, or it ends up just being kind of bland and like planning this party, because the focus isn't on the marriage, it's on the wedding, which none of us really care that much about. Like, it does not matter to us as viewers whether they have, what kind of cake they have. It doesn't matter.
Right.
That's not interesting. And so I think it's really hard to come up with conflict. And so you either have to be really funny, which is why a movie like Greek Wedding or Father of the Bride, or, something works, because it's so funny.
Mhm.
And it's also, both of those movies also have those like tender-hearted moments that endear you to the characters. And so, and in both of those movies, actually, for the most part, the actual couple aren't the ones creating the conflict. Like, they're like the Greek wedding couple, they're just kind of like, okay, fine, we'll give out that
Right.
crazy invitation. We'll wear whatever, I'll get baptized. Like, they're pretty chill, that couple. It's everybody
Super
around them that's crazy.
Well,
And
I would also argue in a lot of like the ones that work,
mhm.
the, as you said, the bride is often the one who is like losing her mind because she's the one doing all the stuff. And in the movies that work, the groom is there.
Yeah.
Whereas like I feel like a lot of these Hallmark ones that we see, like what, at least two of the movies this month, one of the husbands like goes away right before the
Right.
wedding to do work.
Yep.
Like,
That's true. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and it's ironic because I actually think probably the best, for me at least, probably the best movie that Hallmark's made this year is technically a wedding movie, with The Wedding Cottage. I thought that one was really good. But it's really like wedding adjacent. It's just about these two people. I just thought they were so charming and the banter was so good, and I thought they had great chemistry. And so that one really worked for me. But a lot of times I just leave, like, I really disliked The Professional Bridesmaid. I thought that one was terrible. And so
I already
just
forgot that existed. So
yeah.
Right.
like, I
you.
don't think I had quite a visceral reaction that you clearly did, but also at the same time, I was like, The Professional. Oh yeah.
That was so bad. I'm like, this whole plot is so stupid. I hate
Yeah.
it. Ho, ho, ho. We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the Hallmarkies Patreon.
Do you love Hallmarkies podcast, especially at Christmas?
Do you enjoy the holiday previews, recaps, interviews, and bonus episodes?
If the answer is yes, please consider supporting the Hallmarkies Patreon. We need your help to do what we do both during the Christmas season and all year round.
But not only do you help a podcast led by strong, independent women by becoming a Patreon, you get to become a part of the Hallmarkies family.
Starting at only $2 a month as a patron, you will have access to our Facebook Patreon group where we talk about the movies, shows, and more all year.
We also have many monthly patron watch-alongs with guests like Lacey Chabert, Natalie Hall, Paul Campbell, Mary Lou Henner, and more, giving their behind-the-scenes details of their films.
As a patron, you also have the chance to provide input into the podcast and even join us at different tiers.
So this Christmas season, spread some cheer to the Hallmarkies Patreon and become a member today. You won't regret it.
Go to patreon.com/Hallmarkies to learn more.
That's patreon.com/Hallmarkies. I mean, I don't know how you both feel, but I feel like this has been a rough year for Hallmark. There have not been that many wins.
Yeah, I have been underwhelmed. It's been a while. I mean, granted, I will say the pandemic definitely influenced things on how much I watched for a while, but I feel like I've missed more this year than I have in years already.
Same.
And it's only the end of June. So we'll see.
I was in a play earlier this year. So I had to get all of my wedding planning and like all of our podcasting kind of done mostly before March because I was like in rehearsal and in performance from the beginning, from mid-March to the end of May, right, until I went on my own wedding. So like, it was like, Billy, all the planning from here on out is yours. But of course it wasn't. I still had to do stuff.
I also think this attempt that they have made to try to do kind of women's fiction, like, has really not worked for me. I think the one with Holly Robinson Pete and the road trip movie with her and the younger girl, that one was I like that one pretty good. But for the most part, most of those kinds of movies have really not done it for me. It's just not working. So I don't know. It's been interesting. I hope that they're just going to nail it for Christmas, because they need to. Yeah. I'm turning into Grumpy Dan and more every. And this is not good.
Maybe we're developing like a whimsy tolerance. You know, like we watch so many of these. They're no longer affect
June weddings was a test. I almost never like a wedding movie. It's very tough. I just find that usually the characters end up being insufferable, or it's really boring. I just find them usually frustrating.
Well, thinking back to because we've been doing wedding movies because of Katie's wedding for a while. You know, we like to be themed, to something, whatever we decide is the theme. And I feel like a lot of the ones that we have ended up enjoying, the couple is not together in the movie, and it's some other wedding.
Right.
Yeah, it's true.
It's been like quite a number of them where we've been like, oh yeah, no, they weren't together.
Well,
like
my favorite,
a different couple or something.
My favorite of these movie of the week wedding movies is, I do love Country Wedding. I love that one. But another one that I love is Twinkle All the Way on Lifetime. The fact that the whole community pulls together to make this wedding, and they have the whole view, and the bride is just like, sure, let's do it. And she was so sweet. And it just became this lovely community event. I think that one's,
but again,
we like that
that's
one.
not a couple that's together.
Yeah.
It's not centered on the wedding couple. It just is around the event of a wedding. And I feel like those tend to work better than the ones where it's the bride and the groom or the lead couple.
I agree. Yeah, I think so. Same with Wedding Cottage.
Yeah, I would love to see a wedding movie, because I will say one of the joys of planning my wedding was imbuing meaning behind like the most mundane thing. Like this thing is meaningful to, like, I got chandeliers as decoration because chandeliers are my like favorite thing. We got this cake topper specially made because we both like these certain animals. We picked the song, we picked all of our music because it has like meaning. I would love to see a movie that, like, if we were having a couple that was together, walked us through some of those finer details, like not just like we chose hyacinths because they were there. I don't even know what a hyacinth looks like, but and
we had a little bit, we'll talk about in the first movie, we had a little bit of that. But yeah, I think they could do that more, making it personal without making it grating. Yeah, I think that would be good. Well, let's talk about the first one, The Wedding Season. And this stars Casey Diedrich and Stephanie Bennett, director David Weaver, writer Samantha Chase, and Elena Zaretsky. And as a journalist finds herself on back-to-back bridesmaid duty for her three best friends. Needing a date, she pairs up with a photographer who is the brother of one of her friends. And you can't have a Hallmark movie without a photographer. So there we go.
It's hard to have a wedding without a photographer. So,
True.
But he's not the photographer though?
No, he's not the photographer at the wedding.
It's true. Because
he's like nature photographer.
Yeah. They're always
Landscapes.
They're always like op-ed, like artistic photographers.
Right.
They're never like photographing kids' school, photos.
Yeah, no, it's a job that I'm pretty sure in real life, like, it's hard to make a living only doing that.
Yeah. But they love it in Hallmark. There are some photographers. It's pretty rare. But anyway, overall, Hannah, what did you think of this one?
I liked this one. This, I think, was one of the better ones of the wedding season. There are parts of it that drove me crazy. Like, what friend group is getting married back to back? Like, that's absolutely insane. Like, who does that? That's
especially when they're kind of older. Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
I
like
don't know
these
how
are
old
not
they were
like
supposed to be.
23-year-old kids.
Yeah,
Like,
because when you're in college, yeah, that does happen. Where like a whole bunch of your friends will all get married. At least it happened to me. You know, like a bunch of them will all get married when you're like 22, 23, whatever.
yeah, but
Right.
even so, was it literally like, you know, week 1, week 2, week 3? This is like our friend group of 4, like, best
It would
friends
be,
found
yeah,
their people. You know, like, it's a little like, just do like a double or triple wedding. Like,
Yeah.
like, what are you
save
doing?
money.
And it's kind of like, how dare
At
you?
the same time, if all the same guests are coming anyway, what, like, why
Yeah.
are you doing this to people?
Because the example I was thinking of was like, none of them, they were just friends with me. They weren't friends with each other. And you're right. This is like a peer group where they all know each
Yeah.
other. So it doesn't make sense that you do that.
Right. You know, it was the kind of thing where like they all were going to each other's weddings, which is also a little odd in terms of timing, you know, like,
Yeah.
if you wanted to do an immediate honeymoon, you can't because you've got this wedding coming up, kind of
Right.
thing.
Yeah.
You know, it makes me think of like Wedding Every Weekend, where that they didn't know the same people. Like, that actually,
Right.
it was just
Yeah.
like, it just happened that these people had a wedding every weekend, but that
Yeah.
wasn't, you know, and that makes sense to me, where this was like, you've chosen this actively.
If my best friend had been like, "Oh, you're getting married on this day," then I'll get married the next week. I'll be, "How dare you?"
Yeah.
You know, like,
when my sister got
really
married,
mad.
she actually called me and said, "Can I get married a few days after your birthday? Is that okay?"
yeah.
Like, she had to check with me if like she couldn't usurp my birthday, and
She
that's
had a
not
beautiful
weddings.
That's very thoughtful. Yeah, that kind of, I actually liked more than most that Very Merry Bridesmaid. You know, where the wedding was on her birthday. her brother's
Yeah.
Oh,
wedding.
right.
I thought that one was, and as Casey Dietrich. I thought that one
Yeah,
was cute.
right. I was gonna say same guy. Yeah, that one
was cute.
that was
Yeah.
cute.
I think Emily Osmond is like born for these. She should
I
do
know. Why
way
isn't she
more.
doing more of them?
She's so good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I love watching her.
Yeah. So
But she's always in really, really stupid sitcoms that I can't stomach.
I didn't mind Young and Hungry. It kind of lost me after
Yeah,
a
no,
while,
I liked
but I
Young
did
and
think it was
Hungry,
pretty
but
cute for a while.
She was in a really stupid one about being like the stupid person in a smart house or something.
Oh, shoot. Well, Katie, overall, what did you think of this one?
I liked this one, actually. I really like the lead. You know, we see her a lot in like the sister bride, you know.
Yeah,
like,
this is her first lead, I think, for Hallmark. So that was
which
exciting.
Yeah, considering how long we've been seeing her on Hallmark, I think that's sad. But I'm glad that she got that lead. And I also thought that, like, I remember Twitter was a buzz or a Twitter about like how like their chemistry was off the charts. Like, this was pretty like kind of like steamy comparatively a bit. Which is, I like it. That's great. And I'm sure we'll get into it. And Hannah and I discussed this the other day off podcast. I do love that one of the couples, spoiler alert, decides not to get married. And I loved that decision because I think that, like, again, marriage is not to be taken lightly, and it's a big decision. And if it's not right for you, even if you love the person, maybe don't do it yet or at all, or, you know, and I think that that's really a cool thing. And she seemed really happy about that. And I liked it.
Yeah. I enjoyed this one the most out of the 4.
Yeah.
David Weaver, he almost always delivers as far as his movies. They're almost always solid. Although I don't know if I can forgive him for that kayaking scene. We're going to talk about it more, but it was so bad. Like, I don't know why you just don't have them talking at the dock. Like, there was no reason to have them in the kayaks. They just have them talking at the dock if that's the way it's going to look. Oh my gosh.
There were like, I genuinely had moments where I was like, I don't know where they are in that scene. I was like, are they on a boat? Are they not on a boat? What is happening?
It was so bad. It was epically bad. Yeah. I was like, oh my gosh. But I liked the snarky edge that the movie had. I I think that her character, like being kind of sassy about marriage, was refreshing. She says marriage is the only time you need a license to go to prison. So, I mean, some people might, I guess, be turned off by that. I thought it was funny. I thought it was refreshing. I thought it was a nice, like, counterbalance and a nice way to kind of start off. And she comes around in the end. So it wasn't like she was cynical throughout. Um, but I kind of made a nice little like character arc for her, I think. And
I
so
also appreciated that, she didn't like weddings, but is still willing to do this,
mhm.
be part of this event for her friends because that's more important to her.
Yeah.
I don't know if anyone would be interested in reading this article. It sounds like the kind of thing
Oh,
that's
God,
like
it sounds-
really important for you and your friends in your peer group, but like, are there people that are not emotionally invested in your, aren't friends with you? Are they going to want to read this?
I don't understand what this magazine she works for is.
Please
So
do.
like,
No.
because also she's like a editor or like a copy editor maybe
Mhm.
at the beginning, and then a big break to like start writing articles, but I don't really know what they like their plans are. It's a weird magazine because it felt all over the place.
It's a Hallmark magazine because that's how they
That's true.
all operate.
But also like maybe they were gonna pull her story because she can just say like, actually, I'm not gonna write it at some point. Like
Yeah.
there's
I don't know.
jobs are not how jobs work.
Mhm.
Jobs are not how jobs work.
So then you had the couple that decide to break up, Michelle and Rod, and they try to like recreate their first date. They try to kind of, but they decide to not get married. They say good match, bad timing, and they go ahead and have the party anyway. It's
Yeah.
all been paid for.
Which I
And
really appreciated.
yeah,
Yes.
One of my big things with Hallmark is I spend a lot of emotional and stress time thinking about all the money that is spent and wasted when watching Hallmark in the world of the movie.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
right.
And so I was really happy that the money was not wasted.
Yeah, no, that was good. And, but I do wonder if it would have gone this far. I mean, they needed to for the plot, but if you wouldn't have realized, I mean, I guess he just got this offer for London,
Yeah.
so that kind of changed everything. But I don't
And
know.
if you already have people who are coming to your wedding, I think that there might be some kind of like Hannah and I were talking about this in a different way like ages ago. But like if you're at that certain point, it's just like, no, you are obligated at that point to get married. Because we covered Destination Wedding, and it was at that point where like this couple broke up and everyone was already at the resort to get married.
Yeah.
And they're like, no, you need to get married now because everyone just spent a lot of money on you for you. Just do it and divorce later.
Yeah.
So I mean, if they ended up having the party anyway, oh well, like it's fine. But I liked that they did that.
Yeah. It was interesting. I didn't mind it too much. And then you have Laurel, and I forget the guy's name. It's her friend. I like that
It's
friendship.
Peterson and Patterson or something like
Something
that.
like that, yeah. And that's their friend, her friend, and so they're struggling too. She tells them Laurel's upset and at a breaking point. You need to be here. And then we had I guess like right now in Hallmark, it's sort of like the sexy motorcycle ride is like a thing that we're experimenting with right now. And I liked this one better than I wasn't that big a fan of the Tyler Hines motorcycle movie. And in this one,
I like that you're calling it a motorcycle movie.
Yeah, it wasn't good. Another one with lots of
actually think it was that big of a plot point. But I know exactly which one you're talking about.
It was so cheesy. I was trying too hard to be like the bad boy, and I'm like, come on. And they kind of had a little bit of joking of like, oh, my hair looks terrible, and he's like, your hair looks great, by the way, and that was cute. And then and she says something like, when they're sitting there, something like, doesn't it so beautiful? And he's like, take a picture of something beautiful, and he like takes a picture of her. He's like, that was cute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think they had a sweet relationship. You know, it was a little, what I found a little hard to believe was that he is the brother of her best friend. And this has like, there was no, like, I used to have a crush on you. I was ever like, I thought about this, like a maybe on either side, which I like, I couldn't quite figure out, because I also sort of felt like he was supposed to be like out of the house maybe when they were when they became friends, but he didn't seem old enough in comparison.
Yeah, I can't remember what if she had a crush on him at all growing up.
I don't mind that, because you're not supposed to be the same person as you were in like when you're younger, and sometimes people surprise you. What bothered me the most was, did we ever find out if he actually like went through on that job? Like, why?
No, he says he didn't take because he would have missed the whole reception if he had taken the job to Australia. So then when he's there, she's like, oh, and that's when the friend says, you can't toy with Trish. She's my best friend. If you want to be with her, you need to be sure that's what you want. So that was good.
Like, I appreciate the friend being like, you know, pick, but also it's a lot of pressure to put on a relationship that has had 2 kisses, 1 kiss.
Yeah.
1 kiss means forever. Yeah.
So he's
that part made me angry, where like, oh, like everyone is saying, I understand you've been waiting for this job your whole career. You're going to miss the party. It's fine. And she's like, if you miss this party, that proves to me that you're a flake and not marriage material. I'm sorry. I'm going to follow my dreams and make money for our future at this moment.
Right. Did he tank like true. He tanked his career completely. He has to do something else now, right?
Yeah.
He can always substitute teach.
You made me realize I'd be an idiot if I left. So
if you gave up on your career that quickly, how quickly are you going to give up on me? Is my feeling.
And so her story is going to be the lead, and then she got just a little okay at the end. And so there we go. I guess I just appreciated this one because of the snark. There was a little bit more cynicism. It was a little bit funny. So I would give this one 4 out of 5 crowns. I'd watch it again.
I think I'm about that with you as well. About 4 out of 5.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like it completely watchable, pretty. It follows a lot of Hallmark tropes in a way that like isn't terribly shocking, but like interesting enough that you stayed engaged.
Yeah. You agree, Katie?
I'm gonna give it 4 out of 5 on pure steaminess and the fact that I like both of them.
Keep using Stephanie Bennett. She's super cute. Yeah,
super cute.
Today's episode of the podcast is sponsored by W Rated, the podcast where we willingly watch the world's worst rated movies. Join me, Daisy,
and me, Claire, as we break down the IMDb Bottom 100, choosing a different film from the list every episode.
We take a deep dive into the plot, production, release, and reviews, usually with a special guest, to uncover if these films are truly as bad as everyone says they are.
You can find us on Spotify, Apple, Good Pods, and anywhere else you find your podcasts.
Right. So then we have Love's Greek to Me, Torrid Vito, Yanis Demelsis, and Marina Sirtis. Sorry, I butchered your names. And there was no writer or director on IMDb, so sorry about that. Yana travels to Santorini with her Greek boyfriend Mike for a family wedding. When he surprises her by proposing, she gets caught in the whirlwind of his overzealous mom. So you guys didn't live tweet this one.
No, I did not see it.
Oh, you haven't seen it? Okay.
No.
So Hannah,
I have.
Okay, Hannah, overall, what did you think?
I didn't hate it the way Twitter seemed to have hated it. I didn't go that far. I am done, and I suppose this is early to say this in this conversation, but I'm done with the overbearing mother or mother-in-law. I don't like that story.
Yeah.
It's not fun. I just don't, like, other than the fact that it was in Santorini, so like it was a beautiful setting, I genuinely didn't care. And like, the like quote unquote solve of their problems was so glaringly obvious to me that I was just like, move here. Like you can both have jobs here that you'll be really happy with. Why is this a problem? Like you're just saying you need to be in Boston, but you have one family member, lady, and he has multiple. They're all in Greece. And like your mom, I don't think works anymore. She seems like retired or something.
Yeah.
She can come to Greece too.
I
sort of
agree. The only way that you can have a character this annoying is if the movie is really funny. And that's why the Father of the Bride movies work. If it wasn't really funny, then it would be awful, and that's why Greek Wedding works, is because it's just really funny. And this just was not funny. And so it just ends up being miserable. And you're like, this woman is awful.
Right. And, and it like I felt like they tried to redeem the mother-in-law at some point where it was like, no, she's really just doing this out of love. And I did, I believed that. But at the same time, like both of her children, like actively find her overbearing.
Yeah.
Throughout this movie. And like, you're just like, well, like she might be doing it out of love, but like, I'm not on her side. Like she's not communicating well with her children.
No.
And I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not.
I mean, and the thing that also is a problem is when the conflict becomes if someone is just being unreasonable, then it has to be really funny if I'm going to ignore that. And most of her choices weren't reasonable. Like it's not reasonable for her to pick out a wedding dress when she specifically said that she wanted, it's not even just that she wanted her own dress. It was that her mother wanted to design,
right. Especially for a movie where the whole premise that the mother-in-law has is that she wants to do things that are traditional.
Yeah.
And it's like a mother designing her daughter's dress seems like, even if it's not your tradition, like it just fits right into the like traditional ideas.
Yeah. And this mother-in-law would be a more self-interested character, that she would know that making that choice and buying that wedding dress, she would know for sure that that would be a bad decision. And so it becomes unreasonable for her to make that choice, because it's not even, she's supposed to be a super selfish character. This is not a self-interested, reasonable choice that's going to help her. So it's like, well, she's just being stupid. And so that was just frustrating and became repetitive. And it was a tough watch. I had a hard time finishing it.
It was a tough watch. And it also, there were a few plot lines that they just didn't finish. There was the necklace with the eye that she loses. I thought they would find it.
And then he gets her the bracelet.
Like, nope.
Yeah.
Like, and I was like, is this is a warding off of evil or whatever?
Yeah.
But like, tie that into what I'm like, why are you showing me this scene? And I
thought that was going to come back too, as well.
Yeah.
Kind of like, I thought it was going to be sort of like a Sex in the City moment where, Carrie gets her Carrie necklace back, and after Alexandra doesn't care at all about it. Something like that.
Yeah, or like it was gonna show up and it was gonna be like, oh, this is why like I shouldn't break off this relationship, or whatever it was. Like it just it felt open-ended, and that they left that. And with so many of these destination movies, I felt like the setting did a lot of heavy lifting.
Yeah, for sure. And I just didn't in the end feel like they should get married. I didn't feel like they had any chemistry. I didn't feel like they were very good together. I didn't feel like they listened to each other well.
No, they really didn't.
No.
They are when he proposes to her and she's like, I don't know about marriage at all. And I'm like, so have you two ever had a conversation? I am unclear.
Yeah. It was not good. And it was kind of like Crazy Rich Asians if like the guy hadn't been Henry Golding, super hot, I don't know, like it wasn't like,
but at least in Crazy Rich Asians I feel like she was into the idea of marrying him at least before she knew about his family. Whereas this, I didn't even feel like she was into the idea. She actively was like skittish on marriage because her parents had a bad divorce.
Yeah. And then, so then when she proposes at the end, it does feel phony. It feels false. They don't have chemistry.
No.
Also,
I want to just send everybody to therapy.
This really does. Everybody needs therapy. This one was rough. It took me like a couple days to finish it. I'd give it, I would never watch it again. 1.5.
I was hoping to do the whole one.
So I'm going to give it a 2 because I need to hold on to that one.
Okay. Oh, one's coming up. Oh. Ooh, okay. Okay, so then we have the wedding contract, and it's Becca Tobin, Jake Epstein, director Peter DeLuise, writer Karen Berger. Rebecca, a teacher, and Adam, an ad executive, are excited to plan their Jewish wedding, but their wedding and future are put into jeopardy when Adam lands a new ad campaign and their mothers meet. So for me, this movie, I liked a number of things about it. I mean, I think it is nice to get a non-Hanukkah Jewish movie. I like that. It's cool. Somebody who knows nothing about it. It's interesting to learn. And I liked the fact that most of the conflict in this movie was about their marriage, not about the wedding. There was like the ketubah, and there were some other things, and there was him showing up for the rehearsal and all of that. But most of the conflict was about how are we going to make this marriage work? I like that. Problem is that it was just really boring. There just wasn't enough kind of like, it was just sort of watching them talk a lot about all these things, but like, it just wasn't interesting. I don't know how else to explain it. It just was kind of dry and slow and kind of like the same conversation over and over and over and over again about him moving to LA, the job in LA and her quitting her job. And they also misquote Jane Austen, which is a pet peeve of mine.
Yes.
Jane Austen did not say, I never wish to party do from this day on. That is from the movie.
And as I said on Twitter, and I feel very strongly about this, any true Jane Austen girly would be a BBC girl over Keira Knightley.
Well, and mostly because the BBC version is pretty much straight out of the book. Like it's like almost word for word. But yes, I sometimes when Hannah and I live tweet together, we have duplicate tweets, and that is a duplicate tweet.
Even if they say Mr. Darcy said, I'm like, okay, that's fine. He in the one movie he did say that, but they say Jane Austen said. My favorite Jane Austen quote. I'm like, no,
it's not
Jane Austen.
No.
So I think it was one I wanted to like better because I felt like it was trying. It had a good intentions, but I kept falling asleep. I'll be honest. It was boring. What do you think? Well, let's hear Katie first and then hear Hannah. Katie,
I was say Hannah's going to have more to say. I'm trying to find our last tweet because I feel like that sort of sums it up. Oh, okay. So we always try to like sum it up with a one kiss means forever when we live tweet. Yeah. And so what we said for this one was, and so Adam and Becca did the thing and got married. And that's pretty much what happened. But kudos to Hallmark for a non-Hanukkah Jewish movie. Oh, and one kiss means forever. They signed the wedding contract.
Yes.
Okay, so I feel like I agree. I liked the fact that it was kind of about the marriage and like the whatever, but it seemed like I was annoyed for both of them. Like I was annoyed because it seemed like, yes, he was never there, but he was also kind of working. And then she was kind of annoyed. It just seems like they were annoyed with each other. And it's like the whole movie was about our marriage and communication. And yet they never really did that. They never sat down and said, this is what I want. This is what I don't want. And let's have an honest conversation about that. This is what I'm willing to give. This is what I'm not willing to give. And I feel like
they were trying to do like the gift of the Magi kind of thing, where like he was giving up his job because he loved her, and she was giving up her job because she loved him.
Yeah, but that happened in the last act. Like I feel like if we're truly going to be talking about partnership and signing the ketubah and like doing the things, like I don't know. I don't know. It's like she seemed angry at him with the job. He seemed to just be like off in his plane, trains, and automobiles trying to get to the rehearsal dinner. And I'm like, like he needs to set boundaries with his job. And she needs to be more clear about what she wanted to do. And I also hated the fact that the little boy was so funny, but he was like, oh my God, she's leaving. And I'm like, dude, she wasn't gonna be your teacher next year anyway, unless you're really doing that bad. Like
that's true. Well, and the thing, you can speak to this more, Katie, because you're actually married, but like when you get married, your dreams have to change into our dreams. That you should still be fulfilled as an individual, of course, but it has to change. If I think in order for the partnership to really work, is that so? And I don't know if they really like figured that out. They tried to with like the ketubah, but you didn't get a sense of like, what is the mission statement of this couple? What did they really want? I guess they had that conversation about how many kids they wanted, but that was about it.
And which was nice that they had, but you're absolutely right. They didn't have that conversation about like I said, that compromise. And when you become a married person, that is one thing in my partnership we were very strong about, is like, these are the things that I want to achieve in my life, and how are we getting there together, and vice versa. And that the thing that I had a problem with in this movie is they're there in like the dress signing the damn thing, and they have both quit their jobs without telling the other one. And I'm like, would you think that's something to not surprise like on the wedding weekend? Like
probably not.
Maybe not. Even if it is a gift of me supporting you, like you could talk to me about it first, please.
Yeah. Probably a good choice. So Hannah, what did you think of this one?
I hated this movie.
Which is interesting. We should tell the listeners you're Jewish.
Yeah. I have been to numerous Jewish weddings. I, spent a good deal of the live tweeting of this movie trying to explain to people who had never heard of a ketubah what a ketubah was.
You really could get sloshed if you took a shot every time they say ketubah.
Right. I was like, what is this? Like, I actually had like a full on like meltdown when they used prayer shawl, but kept saying ketubah. And I was like, yes, it's a prayer shawl, but you just call it a talit. Like, I don't know what you're talking, like, why do you, if you say ketubah, you say talit. Like, I don't get it. Like it felt, there's a lot of reasons why I hated this movie. And I think, some of your like positives are real, and I would agree with them. This movie felt to me like, I wouldn't go as far to say it was offensive. I didn't find it offensive. I thought it was completely stereotyped. Like it felt like there was like, it was just like Jews are like this. And I didn't love that. I also felt like, the communication issues really bother me. These people should not be getting married if they can't talk to each other.
Yeah.
That's, a whole thing.
Yeah. Because most of the communication was between her and her mom / sister. And in sort of these more group scenes. You're right.
Right. Like the two of them never talked to each other and never had a discussion
not
about what
much.
they wanted as a couple. They were very much, you know, it was a very like Jewish mothers are overbearing and their sons just follow their lead and it's fine. And like that is,
Mhm.
I mean, I'm sure there are some people like that, you know, but
Mhm.
that's not a Jewish trait, nor is that, you know,
Mhm.
a healthy relationship.
Right.
So that really upset me. I also just really, again, you know, like I don't need these overbearing mothers. It's not
Mhm.
it's not a story that I want to be in. I don't want to watch a man not participate in wedding planning because he's decided to go on a work trip.
Yeah.
You know, like all of it was just sort of like designed to be like, oh, is this something you don't like in a movie? Let's put it in for me.
It just felt like to me that everything could be solved with a like 5-minute conference call, and so the whole movie just felt really slow to me.
Yeah. I also, you know, like there's a part of me that understands what the rabbi character was doing of like, we need to test your relationship, but talk
Mhm.
about things. But I also feel very strongly that if you should be getting married, you should probably just be able to go in and be like, yeah, we think this and like this is our goals for our future. And it's a
Yeah.
one-time meeting thing, as opposed, you know, like there was that John Krasinski, Mandy Moore movie that like really upset me about this too. I think Robin Williams was in it.
Oh yeah, that was bad.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
That was bad.
Oh,
That was bad. Other one, I actually just rewatched this on the plane because I'm like, oh, it was not that bad, but it is that bad. Is Something Borrowed? That movie's
I've never
terrible.
seen it, and
Oh my god.
that is an active choice.
Yeah.
I feel
This
like I
movie
did see it, but
sucks.
I blocked it out of my consciousness. But I do love Jennifer Goodwin.
I
Yeah,
do
but
too.
isn't she like
Ooh.
in love with like the
She's
fiance
in
and like
love
is
with
it cheating almost like there's a lot
so
of cheating in
like
it or
Kate
something.
Hudson is her
Yeah.
best friend, and she kind of ends up inadvertently setting up Kate Hudson with her best friend from law school, and then
Who
they
she
end up
likes.
getting who she has had this huge crush on
Yeah.
this whole time, and but doesn't actually do anything about it until Kate Hudson gets engaged, and then she sleeps with this guy, and it is bad. John Krasinski's in it.
Yeah.
And then it's really, really
Yeah.
bad. I was like, whoa. But yeah, I don't know. I haven't liked either of the like Jewish movies that they've had this year. I really disliked Made for Each Other. I thought that movie was terrible. But this one was just boring. I just was not invested. So they need to be, it's not enough just to have representation. It needs to be quality.
I agree. Like you know, I don't want to harp on it so much that Hallmark would stop doing the representation.
Mhm.
But I also agree. Like I have been very like underwhelmed and like annoyed by the choices that they've
Mhm.
made in this space
Mhm.
where you know there you can do something. I also think you can do it, you know, completely non-denominational. You don't have to get married in a church, you know, it
Right.
could be like I mean, for all of these movies, I thought there was something relatively inclusive about them, and
Mhm.
I wish I liked them better.
You know
I
what? They
liked
should take a look at The Nanny, because The Nanny had Fran as a Jewish character, and she was very confident and outright. And she
Yeah.
talked about she used Yiddish words frequently, all that
Mhm.
stuff. The wedding was a dual faith. That's not the right word, but I can think of the
Yeah.
word. But anyway,
Works.
wedding. It was all just integrated seamlessly, and it fit for her character. That is
Right.
way
I
too-
also, you know, not that there aren't younger, like millennial or even younger, like faithful Jews getting married, but I didn't
Mhm.
buy that these two characters
Would be so
were like
orthodox.
religious Jews, you know, like,
Hmm.
you know, because like he didn't know what a ketubah was, which,
Yeah,
like,
because he
okay,
wasn't raised in the faith.
right. So fine. But then, like, it was to have such a Jewish wedding at various points felt strange. Like I just keep going back to my sister's wedding because my sister married a non-Jew, which fine, whatever. And so like she really wanted there to be a chuppah and he didn't care. And she wanted there to be a broken glass, but they thought about it and she was the one who did it because she cared about it. And it was her faith. And that was, and I honestly, I don't think she did it out of religious reasons. I think she did it more out of like, this is tradition. And I like the tradition part as opposed to.
Was she able to break it?
Yes.
They were acting like that was hard.
Yes. This is when I have learned that you can buy special ones that break easy.
Oh, okay.
Hannah, I'm really disappointed in you that you did not sing the word.
I'm sorry,
tradition.
I didn't sing tradition. I saw you doing Tevye arms.
I'm like, she's gonna say it. She's gonna say tradition.
No, the next movie was my singing movie.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
We're going into the fiddler. But before we leave this one, I just want to, it kind of does segue into the next one, is I'm excited when we get to the point of movies that have representation where it's not here is a 101 about how this culture works.
Yes.
And that is what we're going to teach you, rather than just being focused on characters who happen to be X.
Well, that was so great about the Rye one, the Hanukkah on Rye or whatever.
Yeah.
That one was so good because they really didn't spend any time like explaining, because I really disliked the 8 gifts one, because I felt like in that one they have a character there whose whole purpose at the party was just to be the basically like Gentile that they explain everything to.
What does this mean?
This is what the 8 candles mean. And this is why it doesn't matter. And that's why it was so good about the Rye movie is that they just like, we don't care. Like we don't care necessarily the why. We just need to know that it's important to the characters. We need to know that this is meaningful to the characters. We don't need to really know what a ketubah is. We just need to know that this is meaningful to our characters.
Right. I mean, and if you extrapolate that into like the Christmas movies, we don't sit around talking about like, why do people go to church at midnight potentially? Like we don't do any of that. And because it's assumed that people know, but I guarantee there are many people who just go like, oh, I guess these people just do that, like without thinking about it.
Yeah, like in My Big Fat Greek Wedding, he ends up getting baptized just to like placate her family. They don't go through like all the reasons why that's important or what the symbolism of the different. It's just there, and you see it, and it's funny because it's like ridiculous, but
it's show don't tell. Isn't that like one of the number one rules of writing is show don't tell, and you don't got to tell me to show me.
Yeah, well, and show why it's important to the character, because it could be a completely made up ceremony that's just like between like on Heartland. And Heartland, they have a whole ceremony that they do where they name different rocks on the mantle for different people. It's just like something they made up, but it's like meaningful to the characters. And so whenever it happens, whenever there's it's a person getting married or, whatever, whenever it happens and somebody gets a rock, it's like an important event on the show. And so it doesn't matter if it's, again, a completely made up thing, or if it's like all that matters is it important to the character and why? Yeah.
Although they do explain things in Christmas time, Hannah, but only when it's like why the town has a party at a certain day and when they put up the tree, we have to explain the town lore and why it's important to the town.
Yeah, but have you ever seen a Hallmark Christmas movie where they explain that the tree is a pagan symbol that they brought over?
It's a Saturnalia miracle.
And we put tinsel on the tree to bother all the Christmas cats.
Yeah. So I'd give this one 2 crowns.
This is my one.
All right.
I'm gonna give it 2 also only because I have weird obligation towards Becca Tobin. Like I feel like I need to be supportive. I was in school with her.
Oh, really?
So I feel like I need to be supportive, but I'm also kind of like jealous that she does these Hallmark movies, and I'm also kind of mad that she just kind of seemed like she was sleeping through this one. So sorry, Becca. It's fine.
It just was dry. It was dry.
It was boring.
Yeah.
We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the Hallmarkies merch store.
Are you looking for that perfect gift for the postable, hardy, or Hallmarky in your life?
What about getting that t-shirt or hoodie that will help you stand out at your next holiday party?
Now is the time to check out the Hallmarkies merch store.
Full of festive designs by artists like Jessica Miller, Carrie from Hallmark Comics, and more.
You can even have more than just shirts, but totes, cell phone cases, notebooks, mugs, and more.
And it isn't just Hallmark. We have designs for Anna Green Gables, Man from Snowy River, The Nanny, and more.
Every purchase at the merch store goes to help support the podcast and allows us to make the great content you know and love.
There are frequent sales, so go to tpublic.com/stores/Hallmarkies or see the link in the description.
That's tpublic.com/stores/Hallmarkies.
Last one, Make Me a Match, Rushi Kota, Eva Bourne, and Rekha Shah. Director Heather Hawthorne Doyle, writer Nikhil S. Jamaran. Sorry, sir. I said your name terrible. But Vivi enlists the help of an Indian matchmaker, Reina, to change her fate in love. However, Reina's son, Boom, just might be the change Viva needed all along. So let's start with Hannah for this one. Overall, what do you think about it?
I like this one. This one was my favorite.
Okay.
Now, I want to be very clear that there's a part of this movie that I'm just pretending doesn't exist because I don't care for it.
Okay.
And that is the app portion of this.
Okay.
I don't want it. I don't care. Cut the whole thing.
Yeah.
I'm happy. I love seeing different faces that we haven't seen on Hallmark. I like the wedding, their actual wedding scene at the end of this movie. I was like, this is beyond gorgeous and I love it. And I felt like there was some real like heart to heart moments, like, you know, there was like between the mother and Boom about his father. Like there were some really beautiful moments in there for me. I also liked to a point that her parents got to a place where you don't normally see characters get to. It was interesting. Even, you know, I don't think it was perfectly executed, but I was impressed that they decided to go there of, you know what, actually our relationship doesn't work anymore and we're going to get divorced and we're going to do it amicably, and we've worked through what things are and that's where we're going.
What do you think, Katie?
I'm in agreement with Hannah. I don't know if I liked it as well as Hannah did, but I agree with the wedding. I thought both of them were extremely attractive people that I could just watch be in love forever. I wish there was a little bit more of them like actually being in love, because I feel like they danced around it. But you know, sometimes that's fun. It's funny. I thought his mother was an incredible actor. I could just watch her face like all day. Like she just emoted with so little. It was nice to see. And I agree. I don't really like the app part. Like I didn't really I felt like I didn't really get into the movie until like, or in terms of like understanding what was happening. Because I had like gone out earlier that day and I was sunburned and I feel like I was like allowing myself when the movie was getting set up. So I don't recall why they got the app and her in the first place, other than the fact that like it was a dating app, but whatever. I got the gist. But I mean, I don't know. I had somewhere else I was going with it and I can't remember what it was.
So this one, when I first finished it, I was like, oh, that was okay. But then the more I thought about it, I was like, oh, that was a missed opportunity. I think it could have been a lot better. I still would probably watch it again. I think it's, again, okay. But there were a couple things that I didn't love about it. I thought it was way too business talky. It was just like, this is not interesting. Like all these conversations about the app and I don't know. And then she spent way too much time with the other guy, with Tristan. And so it made you not as invested in her and Boom. We needed more scenes with her and Boom, not with this other person. And it made it feel kind of almost rushed at the end. But I do agree. I thought the mother was excellent. Very good actor. And when he says that she says the most important thing is for you to be happy. And they have that really good conversation. And I thought it was a pretty good at the ending where she goes to try to find him and she thinks he's gone. And that, and then he shows up and I couldn't go to India. I had to be with you. It was very swoon worthy. That was fun. I like Rishi. I think they should keep using him.
Yeah.
We had him on the podcast, who's super great. And so I don't know. I just think it could have been like a favorite and ended up just being okay.
I think that's fair. I think, I am doing it. I am thinking back on it with, active selective memory.
Cut out the business talk.
Yeah.
And if we add a few more scenes with Boom, and we're good.
Yeah. Sort of like when you read a book where it's like they spent so much time describing something. So like when it goes from action scene to action scene, you're like, yeah, that was entertaining. It was just, 500 pages too long or whatever.
Sure.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, I mean, it's definitely not a perfect movie by any means. But I want to like support like
the parents getting divorced. I felt mixed on because it just seemed so downbeat for this kind of movie. And I don't know. I was just like, I don't feel like this movie has earned that moment. It just was like, what is happening? And then,
I think I liked it only because I felt like I thought it grounded the movie and made it something more serious than like maybe it should have been. But there's also as a child of a divorced parents, having that happen and then still choose to get married yourself, I think is kind of cool.
Yeah.
I also appreciate, because I feel like there's so many of these movies where, the daughter, it's always the daughter, has this like inflated view of marriage, whether it's like marriage is the be all end all or marriage is horrible based on her parents' relationship.
Sure.
And that was true here, but for it to turn out to be quote unquote wrong.
Yeah. It was shocking. It was definitely a shocking moment.
Like I felt like there was some, like it was a more interesting character development moment.
It happened quickly, but I'm always in the field of like, if a relationship is wrong, get out of it. And I think it's cool when people who've been married for however long they've been married kind of go, next chapter.
Yeah. And I thought it was effective when he's talking with his mom and she says that your dad wouldn't want you to be alone. And that really tied in well because he had just shared that memory of fishing with his dad. And so it all kind of, the script all kind of came full circle. And so then the whole theme of like respect the past, but I have an eye for the future. And then she says, go and be happy. So that was a really nice scene. Very well done.
Yeah. I think that was the best scene in the movie.
It really was.
Hands down.
I think everyone was like, wait, did someone chop an onion? It's like, wow, I was not expecting sobbing during this movie.
Yeah. And I do agree that the whole wedding at the end was really nice because they didn't have to do that. I mean, they could have just, because that was a definite added expense to the whole movie. And they could have just left it, with them kissing at the end and
but
getting engaged or whatever.
Eva Bourne in that red, like, oh my God,
she's stunning.
She's so beautiful
with the lips. And I love that there's that moment where like he puts on like the gold necklace or something and like the look that she has on her face and what they didn't do in this one, what they did in the Jewish one is they didn't really explain what that means to us, but you could tell that was like a super important gesture and I could feel that and I loved that and I thought it was really beautiful.
I also have to give this movie credit for being the first Hallmark movie to use the word hanky panky, which made me laugh.
I enjoyed that.
Yeah, that was hilarious.
I liked having spies that were like, no touching.
I also do think if the post breakup R's are red reality and ripping to shreds, that's a stretch, I feel like. We need a better acronym.
Well,
Sure.
yeah, but that's I was into the sentiment of like basically they're like drinking, like destroying, and
Yeah.
like like all right, that sounds
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I would give
Yeah.
this one, I would give this one a 3.5. I think I'd watch it again. It was solid. It just, I wish I had a little less business talk.
Business.
Yeah. It was kind of little, and I wish that they spent more time together as a couple.
Yeah. This is a 4 for me, I think.
Mm.
I enjoyed this movie, but it doesn't get full marks.
Yeah. What do you think, Katie?
I'll say a 3.75.
Very good.
And maybe I'll kick it up to 4 if they add a couple more scenes with Boom in it, because he was cute.
He was cute.
A little director's cut.
Yes. Well, let us know what you think if you're listing of these 4 movies. What out of 5 crowns out of 5 would you give them? We want to hear in the comment section or on Twitter. And Hannah, why don't you tell everybody where people can follow you guys and your live tweeting and everything else that you do?
Yeah. When we have our podcast, One Kiss Means Forever, and we try to live tweet when we can. We've slowed down slightly. We used to really do every single one, and now we're a little bit like, you know what, maybe we have a Saturday night that we want to leave the house.
Yeah.
But we are One Kiss Means Forever, and the 1 and the 4 are numerals. But we're findable. We're around.
You should definitely follow them and listen to their podcast. And you can find me at Rachel's Reviews, all over social media, iTunes, YouTube, and on Rotten Tomatoes. So check that out. Also, make sure that you are following the podcast, Hallmark's Pod and Hallmark's Podcast, all over social media. And if you are listening on iTunes, please leave your ratings and reviews for both of our podcasts. That would really help us out a lot. And if you are watching on YouTube, please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. We appreciate that so much. We also have our Patreon group, which is really fun. You get every month. We have watch longs with talent, and we have exclusive reviews every Sunday and lots of other good stuff. I think you definitely get a bang for your buck with our Patreon. So please take a look at that. And then we also have the merch store where we have tons of fun designs. So take a look at that. And thanks so much, everybody. And thanks to both of you. And we'll talk to y'all later. Bye.
Thanks, Rachel.
Bye. Thanks.
Bye.